Howdy y'all, this is Josh at firstgenoffroad.com, and I'm feeling good today. I got a new Cody hat, and today I'm just gonna make a quick video. Actually, and let me just tell you, I have quite a few videos coming. I probably have 3 or 4 videos in the works right now, and you'll get to see those in the next probably 2 to 3 weeks. So subscribe and you'll get every video I make. If you like me, that really helps me out, and feel free to leave comments. I try to respond to every one of them. A few months ago, I installed my Bilstein 5100 shocks in the back, and although I've liked them, I've been happy with them. I was able to add these bigger wheels, and it's done great. And actually, the performance is not bad, but I only get about 23.5 inches of down travel, which is okay, but I want to do better than that, especially if you have an open diff, kind of like mine, because the minute one wheel comes off the ground, you've lost it in the back. So if you're on uneven terrain and your back wheel comes off, well, that back wheel is just going to spin. So it's important to have more down travel so that back wheel can stay in contact with the ground.
This is an example of what happens when your back wheel doesn't have enough down travel. You can see that as soon as that wheel comes off the ground, it just spins. So I did end up making it, but I think that this just illustrates my point.
Here I am at full flex with the Bilstein 5100 shocks. I'm measuring from the top of my tire to the bottom of the fender, and we're right at about 12.5, maybe 12 5/8. We'll see if the new shocks are going to make a difference. So I'm going from a Bilstein shock that has about 23.5 inches of down travel to a new Old Man Emu shock, which has about 26.5 inches of down travel. This is the Old Man Emu 60020L shock. It's available on the website. I'll post a link in the description below. This is going to be a quick video. If you want more detail, I'd watch this install video. This one's just like this one. Alright, so here's what you're going to need for this project. I did use a little bit of this silicone lubricant. It doesn't have to be WD-40 brand, it can be whatever. You're going to need 2 19mm wrenches, and you'll see why. You could just use an open one like that, and then I think it's almost essential to have a closed-end kind of ratcheting swivel unit, kind of like this one. I'll put a link for an Amazon one if you want. I mean, I think these are really helpful. I wouldn't try to even do this without it. I used a 17mm socket and a breaker bar, and then I used a torque wrench to get it back on. You'll see that one. This was to take off the emergency brake cable. I'll show you that. You're gonna have to shim these shocks on the bottom side, so I used a few of these washers. These are 3/4 inch. Not sure how thick they are, but they're pretty hefty. In my case, I used an angle grinder, and it was really handy. And you know, you just want to use some safety stuff. You want to use some good jack stands and some wheel chocks. Those are super important. Safety first, y'all. Wheels chalked, jack stands in place. I have the jack in place too, but I'm really relying on the jack stands. The next step is to take off the top part of the shock. It's on the other side of here, and you need if you're taking off a factory shock, you're going to need a 17. If you're taking off a Bilstein, you're going to need a 19 mil. This is when this swivel unit is almost essential. So there's the washer, there's the nut, and there's the top bushing. But the next step is to take this off. That takes a 17. We have our old Bilstein shock off, and the lower washer and lower bushing we'll just add the old bushing back on with the washer and the nut, and that way we won't lose this. Now that we're going to have more down travel, we're going to put a lot more strain on this emergency brake line. So what I've seen a lot of guys do, and what I'm going to do, is just take this thing off and just not look back. It's bent that way. I'm not worried about it rubbing on the tire, but I just need a little more down travel, and it was getting too tight. You can see now, it's pretty loose. It's got room, but it was getting pretty tight there. So you guys can talk about that in the comments if you want. The bushing is not already in place. There's lots of ways to do this. You can pound it with a giant hammer, which I kind of wanted to avoid because I just didn't want to accidentally damage it. So here's a way that I found to do it that I think is useful, and it's a silicone lube.
So put a little bit there.
All right, and it really doesn't take a whole lot. I probably put a little too much. This is a 4.5-inch carriage bolt. I think it's a 3/8. And then I have a couple washers here. So we'll just put it like so. I have 2 good washers here. We'll just wrench down on this side. Until we've got it sort of pulled in, and that silicone lube really helps it sort of slide into place. It looks like it's headed in a little crooked, but I think it's going to straighten out here in a minute. There it goes. Straighten out.
Go for blossom in your soul. When you know your heart is light, electric is the love. When the Mako flies up from the bottom.
So now what I'm going to do, just give it a little pound, right? And there we go. So pretty easy. It's in, and I don't think I damaged anything. We have 2 bushings, top and a bottom. They look identical. 2 washers, a top and a bottom. They look identical. And then we have this thing that's kind of like a washer, but this, I'll show you how to do this. And then of course we also have a little nut there. It's a washer concave side up. Then you put a bushing on. Then of course you're going to put this into the housing up in the truck. Then once it's in place, you put this, and this is kind of like a stabilizing unit. This kind of positions the shock kind of where it needs to be. And then it's a bushing, and then it's concave side down, and it's a lock nut. So this is going to help me out when it's in position up in the truck and I just don't have a lot of room to move around, and honestly not a lot of strength or leverage either. Bushings in place there, and then the bushings are in place there too, just to help it slide a little better. That's where the lube comes in handy. We'll just pull down on it, or push down on it, pull, push, until we have enough room to take this off. And then we'll just kind of let go. The shock will slowly extend, and then we'll guide it up to where it needs to be. So now we can go ahead and bolt this down, but I want to show you guys. I don't know if you can appreciate this or not, but there is a gap, probably, I don't know, probably a 1/4 inch gap there that needs to be shimmed. So what I'm going to do is just put some spacers in there. So I have 2 3/4 inch washers, and we're just going to use that as a spacer, and essentially we'll make this face this face. And we'll use our torque wrench and bolt this down to, I don't know, I think it's like 98 pounds. So now we have this in place, and we have the lower bushings on the top side in place, but there's only a little nub to work with on the top side. So we need to compress that bushing so we have a little more to work with on the top side. So I'm gonna go to jack and just kind of jack this up and put pressure on it. Here's that little copper kind of positioning piece I was mentioning earlier, so we'll put that up here. Bushing, washer, concave, side down, the lock nut, then our handy little swivel head ratcheting tool. And once you tighten it to a certain position, the shock itself starts turning too. So this is a good time to have another a 19 millimeter wrench. Unlike the Bilsteins, this shock has a good way of, and really unlike the original shock, Old Man Emu shock's got a nice little way to prevent the shock from spinning as you tighten it on. I think that's really, man, that was probably the hardest part last time, was getting that dang thing off because it kept spinning. But hopefully with the way this shock is built, that won't be an issue for anyone. You just crank down on this until I crank down. I don't know what the torque specs are. I crank down on it until it's about as tight as I can get it. Alright, so we got the shock installed, we got the wheel back on, but before we go take it for a spin, I want to ensure that I can get maximum wheel droop out of these new shocks. So in order to do that, I'm going to take off one of the rear sway bar links. So we're going under the truck, and we're talking about this piece right there. That prevents body roll, but it also prevents wheel droop. So we're going to take it off there and up there, and there's actually two of them, but we're gonna see what it does when we only take one off. I think it's gonna be enough.
Not so broken heart.
If this love is electric, it'll be flowing on the streets night after night. Just to get through the week, sometimes it's hard. Right now,
Sing yourself out of depression, rise above all recession. If I know you're
Alright, so I went from about 7.5 to almost 15, so over 7 inches of down travel. Before I was getting about 5. Anyway, that's it, guys. Do me a favor and like this video, subscribe, you'll get every video I make. ARB Old Man Emu 2862 springs with the Old Man Emu 60020L shocks. I cut the sway bar link off, and I added almost 3 inches of down travel in the process. Everything that I do on these videos you can purchase at my website, firstgenoffroad.com. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys out there.